even though the Marvel Disney Plus shows have not been great, fans were actually expecting that to change with the Daredevil Born Again show. So frankly, there's been a lot of fear when it comes to what changes are happening to the Daredevil Born Again show, but lucky for us, we just got some brand new reports and information that actually sound freaking cool. So the first thing I want to talk about in this video is Foggy Nelson and Karen Page. Now, a lot of people have talked about this. You've probably seen articles and videos about this by now, but it has been confirmed that Marvel Studios recently made a decision to bring Foggy and Karen into the Daredevil Born Again show. And that's fantastic news, especially because there were a lot of rumors that Foggy and Karen were going to get killed off screen in the original version of the show. But this change is indicative of a larger change that's going on with the Daredevil show that I think is even more exciting than bringing Foggy and Karen back. And this has to do with the fact that they made the Netflix shows canon to the MCU, and most importantly, canon to these characters that we're going to see in the Daredevil show. And I also just love that Vincent D'Onofrio is just confirming this in interviews, just telling us what's going on here. And so this is actually cool. We get it right from him, and there's a lot of info here. I'm reading from a Hollywood Reporter article, and in the article it says, in September 2023, Daredevil Born Again starring D'Onofrio and Charlie Cox hit the reset button and overhauled its planned 18-episode series after early footage failed to meet Marvel Studios' expectations. The Punisher writer, Dario Scardenpan, was brought on as the new showrunner, and it was soon decided that the isolated Marvel universe that once resided on Netflix would become MCU canon. During our restart of all the creative on Daredevil Born Again, all the creatives got together and said, look, this is how we've got to do it now, D'Onofrio says. So we are for sure only speaking about it in terms of being directly connected to the original Daredevil, and that's a great thing. It brings in a lot of cool stories and all the collateral story that happened in those original 3 seasons. So basically, guys, when they decided the show wasn't working and they had a new creative overhaul, a lot of the people that came in basically just looked at what they had and said, you've got to make Daredevil canon, and you have to also make this show match the Daredevil tone. The reason the show isn't working is because everybody that's going to watch this show already watched Daredevil and really liked it. I've been talking about this in a lot of streams and videos, but it used to be that Kevin Feige was really hell-bent on having a distinct MCU feeling and a distinct MCU canon. Like, Kevin Feige always kept Marvel television at arm's length, and he always downplayed what was going on with Joe Quesada and all of the Netflix shows. So I frankly think it's a super big deal that they looked at it. The creatives involved said, dude, you just got to make this like the other show. And also, there's so much richness from that show that if we made it canon, we could play with some of those themes and elements and really improve the experience of watching Daredevil Born Again. And I think it's a super big deal that Kevin Feige was like, okay, we will do that. We will bend on my sort of golden standard and my golden rule here so that we can have a better experience for fans. That's a W and a massive good sign for people that want to enjoy this freaking show. Now, next up, I want to talk about brand new reports from Jeff Snyder, because now we kind of have this good news about the tone, but in this new report here, Jeff kind of breaks down what he has heard as far as what's going on with the actual Daredevil show production. So first he says Disney has cut down what was shot during the initial filming of Daredevil Born Again to about 6 episodes worth of material. He goes on to say, to make sense of the other 6 episodes, Dario Scardenpan was brought in to write and direct a new pilot episode. Apparently, they also wrote an additional 2 episodes to make the total run of episodes 9. Because you'll recall, this was sort of promised and promoted as an 18-episode series, which is huge for the MCU. Like, I think the longest show they've done is 8 episodes on Disney Plus. Also goes on to say the first 9 episodes will air as the first half of Daredevil Born Again, and he's reporting that the second half will not be referred to as a second season because of contractual obligations, but there'll probably be a huge break between the first 9 episodes and the second 9 episodes. And that implies that their focus is to just get these 9 episodes ready to go, and that makes total sense to me. But now let's talk about what Jeff reported. Like, let's try to make sense of this. So they took all the stuff they shot in the original shoot for Daredevil Born Again, and they've cut it down to about 6 episodes. Now, your mileage may vary on how you feel about that, right? Echo is a kind of example of how they've been trying to fix different shows, and they took Echo, which I think was originally 8 episodes, and cut it down to 5 episodes. The finale of Echo is really bad. Like, I really didn't like it, but for the most part, I actually did enjoy the Echo show. It's not incredible, but I was actually engaged with it, and I felt like just from a narrative perspective, it did flow. So I'm personally feeling okay about this. I'm like, all right, they're going to chop it down. They're going to really try to make it work. They're probably going to up the violence. Maybe they'll go in post and add some extra crunching sounds here, some extra blood effects here and there, because that's, to me, what they ended up doing with Echo to try to put an edge on the thing. I love the idea of a brand new pilot episode. I think that could be where you see Foggy and Karen, but we'll talk more about that in the back half of the video. I want to talk about the potential plot leaks here. I also love the idea of having 2 additional episodes to make it a total of 9. But again, I think it's going to depend on how you felt about Echo. To me, watching Echo actually made me a little bit more confident that they can fix these things in post and make them somewhat enjoyable, but that's just because I personally enjoyed a lot of the Echo episodes. But to be fair, we've seen plenty of examples of Marvel stopping production, doing reshoots, throwing money at a problem, and trying to fix a particular show or movie. The Marvels is an example of that. Secret Invasion is an example of that, and those 2 projects were object failures. So there's frankly a lot of concern out there that Marvel can't just fix it. I would imagine some of you guys would be feeling more confident if Daredevil was starting completely from scratch. But now let's talk about the plot leaks, because there's been a lot coming out over the past couple of weeks. What are they changing from the original show? And the first thing I want to mention here is we're all really excited that Foggy and Karen are back. I'm really hoping they don't actually just get killed, but it is making me a little bit nervous seeing that they're keeping a lot of the original material and they cut it down to 6 episodes. So potentially here, you could actually see a first pilot where Daredevil's in the suit, somebody finds out that he's Matt Murdock, and then hurts Foggy and Karen, and then that becomes the catalyst for the second episode. Because I'm saying this because that was the original plot. Like, originally, from what we've heard, you were going to have Matt Murdock retired because Foggy and Karen got killed because somebody found out that they were close to him as Daredevil, and so he's like, I can't be Daredevil anymore. I gotta say, this is still an improvement over it just happening off screen, but I really hope they don't kill Foggy and Karen. Maybe they can find a way to make that motivation still work for Daredevil, but not have those characters be eliminated from the show. But if they're using a massive amount of footage and cutting it down to 6 episodes, well, there's probably not going to be a lot of Foggy or Karen in those episodes because they weren't in the original version of the show. Now, the next thing we got to talk about here is Fisk as the mayor of New York. And apparently this is said to be happening very quickly in the show. In fact, Daniel RPK has reported that Fisk will be the mayor of New York when the show starts. Like, you're not even going to see a campaign. He's already going to be the mayor. Take that with a grain of salt, because Daniel's been getting a lot of stuff wrong lately. And I think that's just because there's so much changing right now behind the scenes at Marvel that even some of the most reliable people are probably just getting a few things wrong because there's, well, just so much going on. Daniel is also reporting that the character of Muse is going to be the main villain of this show. Now, Muse is a really interesting character, very brutal, uses human body parts and blood to create artwork. He's like a psycho killer, just a really brutal, cerebral, crazy kind of a villain. So potentially a really good villain for this show, and also kind of an exciting villain to have if you're going for a TVMA, a more hardcore kind of a show. You can have a lot of fun with the violence and the gore that you would do with the Muse character. There's also been a lot of people talking about Punisher, Bullseye, and White Tiger being in the Daredevil Born Again show, and that is freaking awesome. I mean, John Bernthal as Punisher, incredible. We had heard he was coming back for Daredevil a long time ago. There were some concerns, of course, that maybe he wouldn't be in it after the show completely changed. But maybe they already shot a lot of Punisher stuff and he's just going to be cut into the new version of the show. Or maybe they've written him in a more meaningful way. I'm not certain, but it's super cool that we will be getting Punisher in this show, and I'm really excited to get Punisher in the MCU in general. The Bullseye from the Netflix show is a fantastic character. Like, dude, I loved that guy. I thought it was super cool. Absolutely crazy, played the role well, and the action sequences with that character were fan-freaking-tastic. So, dude, if we get Bullseye back, that's a W. That would be freaking incredible. And White Tiger is also a really interesting Marvel character that works well on a street-level team. So to me, when you take all of that into consideration, it feels like a lot of positive changes are happening behind the scenes for Daredevil Born Again. I'm a little nervous about them using the old footage, but they cut it down to 6. They probably cut a lot of stuff out of there that fans wouldn't have liked, and I would imagine they're adding stuff when they go to shoot it again to try to spice up those episodes. They have 3 completely new episodes, including a brand new pilot. They seem to be bringing in a lot of fun characters from the past Netflix shows, from the Marvel Comics universe, and they are matching the tone of the old Daredevil show, and the old Daredevil show is now canon. It's canon to the MCU, and most importantly, it's canon to the Daredevil Born Again show. So let me know what you think about all of that in the comment section below. And as I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.